Good morning and welcome to Rise and Shine Sundays. I'm your host, Jamie Rich, and I am delighted that you can be with us on this Sunday morning or whatever time it is that it is when you actually are watching us. We are delighted to be part of a broadcast that takes place on the Breakthrough Show Network every Sunday morning at this time. And this particular gathering is really about gatherings themselves. Last Sunday, we asked a question, and that question was built around flipping how we gather. If we could look at, we started, I know some people have been meeting online for a long time, and some people have been new to it. Some people were brought into it through the global pandemic, others were brought into it through their workplace. But we started meeting online, and we've not always had our full attention on understanding what the power is behind meeting and gathering online. So this we asked people to participate in an experiment this past week where we flipped how we gather. And rather than having a gathering that was focused on content being delivered and handed down to people, what we were trying to do was to make gatherings truly a gathering, a pulling together of different voices, different thoughts, and different ideas around a theme. Now we do that every week here on Rise and Shine Sundays around a particular question. And so, even if you didn't participate in our 7 day open circle summer shift, we're going to be talking about what happens when you flip it. And then we're going to be talking a little bit about our experiences about what happened when we flipped it during the week. So I invite you to come along because unless you're one of those people who has never had a chance to meet with other people online, there's a lot that you can bring to this conversation. And we'll invite that participation if you'd like to join us in the studio at rsslive.org. You can do that. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, you can do it through the chat there as well. So joining me are some people who are really flipped out this week. my fellow flippers here on Rise and Shine Sundays. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Well, one of the things that we determined last week was an essential part of having gatherings online that were built a little bit differently was allowing people to sort of have a moment to center themselves from wherever they may have been. That even though we sometimes pop online and get assaulted and we're already on camera and everything's going, what if we took an opportunity to have a collective pause this morning? And a little bird told me, or a little thought maybe came to me prior to this. Claudia, would you be willing to help get us centered this morning as we begin to have our conversation?
Yes, thank you, Jamie. And thank you all for being here. So, what I'd like us to do at this moment is, if you wish, just close your eyes and take a nice deep breath in. And then exhale. And as you exhale, allow all thoughts of yesterday, worries about tomorrow to leave your mind. Inhale once more. And as you inhale deeply, inhale that lifeline, that spark of life that is in each one of us. Exhaling it into the center of this circle. One more nice, deep, big, deep breath. Inhale. And then exhale. We come together in these circles to share and receive the wisdom of each person here. There's a lot of energy flowing in this circle. And so we focus on this life energy that is flowing around us, above us, below us, beside us. We focus on the here and now. And so it is. When you're ready, just slowly open your eyes. And we'll begin the interplay of wisdom.
Oh, and there's the word for the week, the interplay of wisdom. Thank you for that. That is our anchor as we proceed on the Sunday mornings. And look, and when we come back, there are even more surprising people that show up in the room while we're having that energy. Welcome, Regine, to the conversation. So I'm inviting those of you who are watching this, even regardless of whatever time it is that you are watching this, whether this is in a replay or live with us on the Breakthrough Show Network, the conversation that we want to have in this wisdom playground that we're going to be a part of is really speaking from your experience of what it's like when you approach gatherings like this in a different manner. And Ray, I'm going to turn to you this morning because you have been so instrumental in for helping us understand this flip that we're talking about. Are there some other key ingredients as we kind of begin to kind of talk about the wisdom that's available for us today?
Oh, thanks, Jamie, and I appreciate the compliment, and I want to share that compliment with everyone here and everyone that participated. Is the sessions were made whole and exciting because of who attended and who participated in whatever form they chose. Um, One of the things that we did in preparation for today, we sort of well, how do we want to engage with you today? And one of the key things is, and what you keyed in on just now, Jamie, is okay. What did we do? We brought, and this was surfaced by somebody. We brought curiosity to the room, and our own and our collective curiosity together. And that led me to be even more curious because I was wanting to actually bring that to the group and to those who are listening to see what drew us to the summer shift, as well as what actually happened. What did you experience? What did you feel? What changed? So we can loop back a little bit once we start, but there's a whole bunch of themes that emerged, and they were very exciting themes and very deeper themes into our thinking and about us gathering together. So over to you. What's curious, or what curiosity do you have?
I'll land that one. Who does have some curious thoughts about it? Because you've tantalized me, Ray. You want me to? I want to find out what those insights were right away, right? I want to go to that goal, but it is a matter of part of that flipping process is switching the focus from some kind of collective, or usually leader focused goal of what we have to accomplish to the wisdom of what's in a room, what's available to us. So saying curiosity, is that a good word for you? I'm curious about your stance on curiosity.
I love curiosity. I was just talking with a few people last night at this event I was at, and it it kind of had a mix of this situation too, because if you think about the different places that you gather, right? So last night I was at this event, I'm talking, people are coming up to me and talking to me, and we're talking, and they're curious. They're like, "What is this? How do you know so and so?" Like that genuine curiosity, not necessarily nosy. If they were nosy, then that's that. But it's what is, like, how can you still, no matter what gathering you're in, how can you still have that inner wisdom that Claudia was talking about, right? How do you have that curiosity for them? And it was very interesting because as I'm talking to these college students, they were very open to, they were just like, yeah, why don't we talk about that as human beings? And it was just so fun and fascinating, just to be in an unorthodox or untraditional situation, to have a conversation of value. And it's literally about you being the one that brings that energy and that conversation and allow it to unfold. And you get to decide, according to the conversation, if the conversation is going to, if it's going somewhere else or it's going in a direction that, each one of you are feeding one another. I think it's really great.
Love that. So curiosity, and you asked an interesting question. Why are we not talking about this?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't we talking about approaching a different way about how we gather? Does anyone have any thoughts about that? Well, I heard Jaloki laugh on that one. Was that you? Please come into the
Oh,
light. We also have to, those of you who are watching this visually, Jaloki does have human incarnate form, but this morning he is truly a being of light.
Yes, I hope I'm not too blinding. And I want to recognize, I actually wanted to let the people who have participated to the week to speak before me, but you put the blind spot, the light spot on me, because I didn't have the privilege or honor to participate. But you asked a question about our experience. Something that came to my mind, and I'm going to paraphrase. I'm not a biblical scholar, and I'm not a scholar of Christianity, but I think it is written that Jesus said something like, whenever 2 or 3 people gather, he will be in their midst. And what he said about 2000 years ago was something that had been known and said and taught for many thousand years before, in many nations and people and cultures. And so I'm bringing that to first talk about gathering in person first, and then I'll say something briefly about gathering online. So the teaching is, or trying to remember that when 2, 3, or more human beings gather in physically, there's something else that happens. There's something subtle, something invisible, something vibrational, something that I call spiritual. And spirituality is not something that is a forte of the modern culture. So maybe that's why we don't talk much about it, in common circle. Now, this spiritual aspect of human gathering, I believe, and I've experienced that we actually can get closer to it when we meet online. Why do I say that? At the beginning, Claudia invited us to close our eyes. And when we close our eyes, we disconnect from the screen here, but inside our mind, inside our heart, we can connect with the people who are in this circle from our heart. We can, okay, there's someone in the UK, there's someone in Belgium, there's someone in the US here in the north, there's someone in Canada. I'm connected with them right now, and they're connected with me. And there are people who are watching on YouTube. I'm connected with them too. And there are people who are going to watch this tomorrow, next week, next month, next decade. I'm connected with them right now here. And so, because it's online, we're not in physical, touchable presence. I think we have an opportunity to experience in ourselves what Jesus was talking about.
Let's all breathe that one in. Because, it is Sunday morning, which is the appropriate time to bring in a Jesus reference, but, only in Rising Shine Sundays is that. But no, what you're talking about is the sacredness in gathering being applied to online human-centered gatherings, and yes, the vast potential is that we are deeply connected in this moment because of being able to take the technology, which was really designed to disseminate information, right? I need to be able to get people, all right, I'm going to force you all into a Zoom meeting, sit here and listen to me while I explain stuff. But there are people who are actually flipping this idea around and being able to say, wait, can we capture, or in Jaloki's words, recapture that spiritual sense of having online gatherings draw in some of these elements? Is that true for anyone?
Yes.
Yeah, Ali,
I
go ahead.
I would like to take more in higher vibrations, because we talked about instrumental and music and key, and I think gathering could be also with music elevation, and that's why I think the vibration is elevating when we sing. We don't have to sing, but I can't hear. But anyway, I will say also that it's all about realizing that it has to be gather pillars so that we can bring butterflies. I'm a huge pancake baker, and also that I can gather with my past versions if I want. I can gather with people that wrote books 100 years ago. I can tune into Vivaldi and connect with Vivaldi or with Ennio Morricone with the music. And so it's realized that gathering has multiple sources, physical and non-physical also, because sometimes I can also gather with my passed away grandmother. So that's my share.
We're going to have to do a whole entire episode about gathering with your past self, because that's a fascinating concept in and of itself. But you're right. And one of the things about what we learned this week, and if there are some people that want to share from their experiences as well, is the importance of holding spaces like this for these conversations, not only because of the value that is in them, but the value that you receive from participating in them. The idea of being able to experience the connection that Jaloki is talking about, if you open yourself up to that curiosity, right? If you really, because I've had people who popped into this space who just go, I don't really get it. What is it that I'm supposed to get out of this? And it's like, the getting is not predetermined. It's predetermined by that curiosity of what you bring to it and what you experience it as you, and that's a different way. That's a flip to me, right? I know there were quite a few containers of wisdom, so I really want to make sure that Regine, do you have, would you have a moment to speak to your experience of this idea of flipping how we gather?
Yes, even though I'm still, letting it sink in, but when it comes to flipping, let me first say that I really enjoyed having those conversations with you all over the course of this week. Some of the things I've enjoyed the most has to do with the level of freedom that exists within this container. And interestingly, I just noticed on the side, there's something that reads audience participation policy and discussion guidelines. And actually, I thought there were none of these. And that was part of the freedom that I was seeing. And I did click on it. But as a side note, nothing popped up. So back to the.
I will tell you, this is just to keep this as a live moment. It does exist in our regular room. It doesn't exist in the space that we're using for this week. So you were not the first to notice that. So yes, things are alive in this discussion. But continue, please.
So it was there in the other room as well.
It's in our regular space that we meet in on a weekly basis. But continue on.
Anyhow, I'm glad that I did not notice them, because I should have completely unaware of any need to abide by anything at all. So the freedom, and especially I don't remember if it was you, Ray, or Jamie. One of you mentioned that people could come at any point within the meeting. And that was something completely new to me. And I think that's also part of why I enjoy this. It's because there isn't any script. Even though we have a theme, we know we're going to discuss, but there is room for people to show up as they are. So that flipping of the format is clearly something that's very present, and also where we meet I think is already conducive to a certain sense of settling in, like this is an intimate space and there is no need to perform, there is no need to do anything, just be yourself. And that brings me to the biggest thing for me is flipping how we gather, but flipping how we choose to show up in the internal aspect of it. You know, we can show up in a space like that with the same mindset that we take to our regular Zoom meeting, as in the example you just mentioned. Like somebody is saying, what am I supposed to get out of this? So flipping how we show up, to me, that's the most interesting proposition. And that goes even to how can I take this to the next step and show up not in reaction to what is, because what is in other places, in times past, it serves a specific purpose, which is not bad or good, but different from what we're doing here.
Right.
So I don't know if the word reactive might be too strong, but showing up completely independent of Zoom or any way that things gather, which makes it like a blank slate, an experiment. How can I show up in this space like that? What can I discover? So this is what I am beginning to feel as a potential that clearly is part of this experience and that I would love to dig into a little bit more. I love the fact that even though a lot of us were present, but it wasn't always the same people. And I'm very curious to hear what other people have to say.
And I love that you landed. It was a wonderful share, and I love that you landed back on curious, because that's the ongoing energy that keeps a conversation like this going, right? Because as long as the curiosity stays alive, as long as you're honoring what people are, what is alive and what's present, it doesn't make a difference. Because if you show up to a gathering 15 minutes late, right, that implies that well, wait, that there was a beginning, that there was already a continuous train of thought that was going through. And you're correct. I don't want to poo-poo, did I actually say poo-poo? I really did. Instead of swearing on Rise and Shine Sundays, I did actually. You were here to witness it. But I don't want to, and we'll talk about this in a second. There's a point sometimes for really having data-driven meetings which are focused on a particular content. However, what are we missing by not staying curious and allowing this to happen? Thoughts, anyone?
I think what we're missing is heart. And when we go into a data-driven meeting, as you called it, or a business meeting, or even when we go to if we attend a workshop online, we're sitting there listening to other people talk, and we have all these questions running through our mind, and we're not able to act on those questions or to ask those questions. And so we're dealing mostly with our mind in those meetings, and not with our heart. By flipping it the way we did here, I think, at least for me, I was coming from heart. And when I come from heart, not that I didn't use my mind, I use my mind all the time, but when I come from heart, that's where my curiosity comes from. That's what, and it comes from a space of safety. I feel safe in these meetings, in these gatherings. And so when my curiosity is piqued by something someone says, I can ask about that. I can dwell in that space of curiosity and speak to how it has affected me from heart. And so I think the biggest difference in these gatherings is, as Regine said, feeling safe, feeling that we can say whatever it is that's in our heart, on our mind, and be accepted for that. So yeah, I think that my biggest thing here is my curiosity comes from my heart space, and these meetings are meetings of the heart and mind, not just the mind.
Right. Beautifully said. There were yeah, and you touched on those ideas of safety and trust, which were, some of the other foundational components that when you are leading for trust, when you are creating a gathering that is human centered, that is really allowing people to speak from their hearts, the importance of the container is that it needs to honor that safety and trust. There was a response in the chat in YouTube that says data driven meetings have the enormous potential to be filled with heart. I find a lot of us are intentional about that these days. So there is that sort of blending that goes on. Saying you wanted to bring in something, so I want to make sure we get to that.
Yeah, because as I was thinking about everything, I love that Claudia said heart, because I was thinking not necessarily that it's missing. I think it's accepting what is and saying that we crave that connection when we come here, because when I was thinking back to when I would write a pen pal, if anybody remembers those days, where I would write a letter. I'm asking all these questions. I'm so excited. I'm curious. And then I have to send it off and I have to wait for however long to get an answer back, right? But then as soon as I get that letter in, I'm excited because now I'm like, oh my gosh, now my answers are going to be, or whatever. And I get to know. And it was about that individual connection there. And so when I come into these spaces, I know for myself, it is I come here because we are all connected, as Jayaloki has told us, and we are the energy of what you get to pull in, whether it's in letter form, whether it's in email form, because then it becomes of how do we communicate, right? Do I communicate in pen pal form? And thinking about what those core values are in the gathering for yourself. And I know for me, it is about connection and curiosity. Like, I want to know what this is about. I'm not forced to come here. I get to choose to come here. Whereas, in our adult lives, some of us have to go places on purpose, and be in certain meetings and things like that.
Right.
And then, but when you get that part, and then you are curious and you find whichever communication pathway that serves you, that lights you up, that also heightens your level of curiosity, in my opinion.
I hear you. I hear you. And Hope, I wanted to make sure, I don't know if your audio is working with this, but you were such a strong contributor to so many of our gatherings. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't miss a chance hearing some of your insight.
Yeah, I'm ignored. I'm just kidding. I'm having fun. It's my humor going crazy again. I can't help myself. So every once in a while, I'm going to come up with this nonsense. No, my internet is breaking up, which is why, Regine, I do love you that much. But if you notice Holly's welcome, Regine, there's like 10 loves from me. That's because I was trying to do it and it wasn't registering. And so I kept pressing it. Now there's 11 and I can't go back. Yes, I do love you that much. But thank you, Jamie. My internet's breaking up a little bit, so I am having a hard time hearing you. So I'll probably do more listening today.
Okay, sounds good.
And listen, okay? But thanks for the invite. I hope you've heard all that.
Well, no, one of the things that our wonderful friend Ray did, and one of the things that we want to,
and I keep getting knocked out as well. So I hope you heard all that.
I did.
Yes,
we heard all of that.
Yes, we did.
We heard.
Go ahead, Jamie.
No, Jayaloki, go ahead.
I'll speak after you, and you wanted to ask Ray for something.
Well, I was going to, like I said, why don't you, let's go with what's alive. So you stay with what's alive.
Okay. Bringing my own, I guess, nothing is really my own, but that's another conversation. Curiosity here. When I gather, especially in spaces like these that Regine, Claudia, Sang have described, it's safe. And safe for me, open the possibility to be brave, which means go beyond safety. That's also another conversation. But I'm interested in the synergetic equation 1 + 1 = 3, because I'm with one person, so I bring my energy, that person brings their energy, and the two of us bring an energy that didn't exist when we were not connected and that we cannot bring by ourselves. And so when it's 3, you have 1 and 1 two times, or actually 3 times, and then you have 1 + 1 + 1. I mean, it's exponential. And now we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the screen, plus all the people who are following. This is mind-blowing for me, mind-blowing. And I'm extremely curious of, okay, what's there? the collective wisdom.
Yes, and one of the things that you just touched on was another central theme that emerged this week, which was the idea that this is not an egoic sort of experience, right? What we're doing here isn't particularly, quote, unique, but what makes it immediately alive is that it's what's happening now in the moment. And it's not about the ego that's in charge of this, right? It's the idea that the collective wisdom is the stronger guiding principle, right? So all of those gentle words of, guiding and weaving are speaking to that whole idea of bringing energies together that are alive, where it allows that flow. One of the things that our good friend, what I was going to turn to, was Ray has developed a number of visuals that were part of our inquiries this week. And I want to introduce one of them, which I think is just, I think I want to show a contrast a little bit about what we're talking about. So I'm going to ask Ray if he could kind of share a screen a little bit. And so what we're looking at, and again, is called deconstructing the mechanistic gathering, right? Where our old model of gathering bases on this idea of fixing, of pushing forward, of delivering content, of problem and solution, of control, of trying to make things fast, fun, and easy. And that phrase fast, fun, and easy came up because, oftentimes people will already, when you're in a mechanistic gathering, they will already tell you what the desired outcome they want you to have is, right? No matter how you show up, we want you to leave, and we want to make this whole experience fast, fun, and easy. And one of the things that I also want to be clear on is that this is not making the mechanistic model incorrect. It's just inviting people to look at the idea of the importance of participating in something that is different, right? And Jaloki, if you look on this, it also says we are reclaiming older indigenous ways of gathering. So, right? But in this human immersion paradigm that we're inviting people to consider for their online gatherings, it's about the evolving, right? It's about dissolving some of the boundaries that keep us separate, right? And in order for this to kind of stay focused, you have to have moments of pausing. You have to be able to use things about sensing. And you also then have to make it about the collective sense making. I mean, one of my favorite things that people who are doing control-oriented meetings do is they try to flip them into collective sense meaning by saying, well, discuss my ideas and tell me where I'm wrong. And so they miss this opportunity to have this emergent wisdom happen because they've already determined what they want the outcome to be. And when you're in a human-centered environment, you're allowed to let things, there's this atmosphere of exploration, of unfoldment. And what it requires then is this idea of holding space and surrender, and something that we talk about a lot here, which means you arrive from whatever container that you're in. And sometimes that means sitting with your discomfort. I love this slide, and I wanted to bring this in, and Ray, I'll bring the camera focus back down here into the room. Does anyone have any thoughts? Did that infographic trigger anything for anyone? Yeah, Regine.
Yeah, what I'm noticing, looking at the visual, is interestingly, we are moving back, or we are reclaiming, better word, older ways that have existed before indigenous people of this planet. And at the same time, we're not going back because we are doing this with technology and using it in a very creative ways that goes even beyond the way it's used in the modern world conventionally. So that feels like a new and unique territory. Um, and again, I'm curious, how far can we go with this? Because it feels like possibilities and possibilities where we don't have to choose this or that, but we can allow and bring in all kinds of things that serves this particular way of showing up that is outlined under in the human part. So we're not turning back to what was. We are doing it with today's reality in today's world, and that's interesting to me.
Yes. And you have lit up Ray's fascination because he was nodding along strongly with you. What did you want to say, Ray?
Oh, I was just saying that's so wonderful that to have you articulate in such an empowered way to basically talk about, okay, what are we doing with the technology in a different way than we had before by bringing in what we had. So Euloki's always talked about it's always been there, but we've sort of pushed it aside. Now we're bringing it back into our usage into our processes, so that it allows us to do different things. I can loop back a little bit as we go forward. This is reflected in the themes that were brought forward, or that emerged, I should say, from your contributions during the week. So it's fascinating, and I'm going to revisit the word reclaim when we're ready, or when it's appropriate, Jamie.
Sure. Now might be a good time.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
here's a challenge for you, Ray. Since you're so good at this, I'm wondering what you could come up with that would represent the synthesis of those two approaches.
I'm going to. This is. I was following my own suggestion. Is where the other day I was saying, if we took the visuals that were generated, and we looked and we selected the ones that resonated the most with us, so that we could bring it to a next conversation or to what we're doing now, and that's what I did. So I picked the ones, and Jamie did the same thing, and he said, Ray, I really like the one that we're showing now. So then I went back in and I looked at, there was quite a few. So what, I'm just going to read, I'm doing the Jamie, I made notes. So some of the things that emerged, and obviously, please speak up or share when something resonates with you, or that perhaps it won't be on the themes that I've identified. So we touched on, and this is throughout the week. So it was woven together as we went, and we played with many things. So if in the spirit of reclaiming, we reclaimed our language first. We shifted the terms we were using. And part of the language was also the metaphor. We went from machine to human, which is what we just looked at in the visual. So the language allowed us to, as Claudia said, to put the human heart back in to how we were describing what we were feeling, what we were experiencing, or what did we want to explore because of that human curiosity. So the language, we visited the space because it was new to a lot of us here. So what was the space? And Regine, you mentioned something so beautifully, is that it was an open space that allowed freedom for everyone that attended. There were no hard rules. There were no you must do or you cannot do. It was what comes to your own being that you want to add to the conversation or to be part of the conversation. So language, space, which then I hope this is triggering some memories and thoughts of those who experience this. Is our purpose, our intent. Sang brought up so many things. Why are we here? Why did we come here? What are we doing here? So what was the intent of the space and the process? So purpose was important, and we've touched on it today, and Yoloki shared it, and all of you as well, is okay, energy. The energy that we were looking at bringing forward and sharing with others was so important part of this, as well as the insights of the competition for our energy, our attention, is how is that being pulled away from the important spaces that we need to create and the conversations we need to have. There's 2 or 3 more. I'll go through them as we go here. Our harmonic frequency. You'll notice we shifted the language. Instead of outcomes, deliverables, goals, we shifted to what was the frequency that was flowing through our discussions that changed as we went. And most importantly, we talked about evolution, our ongoing evolution as individuals and human beings, so that there was the level of incompleteness was part of being human. We're never finished, yet old modernistic structures insist on, well, you got to complete something, but nothing is really completed. It's always in a stage of evolution or shifting to something that because of the outside environment or within ourselves. That was the other pattern, the internal and the external. Most importantly, our collective wisdom. I think we really, really had lots of explorations that brought that into what we knew by the time we were finished at the end of the week versus where we started from. And just to cap off, we were reclaiming our conversations because they have value, because we bring ourselves in those conversations, and we each said it in our own words. So also the reclaiming of the tools, the processes, the structures, which I kind of labeled the framework of gathering. So that's all. If you explore the visuals from each day, and then what we're going to play with is the summary of today and your input.
And I'm going to put you on the spot right now, Ray. What I'd like you to do is to bring the slide back up, or the visual back up that we were talking about. And I want you to, in that same playbook that you were showing with us, if you go back to sharing the screen, I want to let the images sit with people for a second as we move into this next part of the discussion. And while you're looking at it, I want to call out that you got a shout out from Jessica, which is that I love the idea of asking attendees the direction they'd like to lead the next conversation. I have found that participation is so rich when they help shape the direction. That whole idea of not allowing there to be a collective part of it. But whenever you're ready, just share I'm putting you back on the spot. Just share the original slide, but the one I really want to focus on is in that same deck that is about the value exchange requires cultivated social soil.
I read your mind, Jamie.
Of course you did.
And that's on the screen right now is the idea of the cultivated social soil is now what we're looking at.
So let's just take a look at this for a second, because there are 3 particular images which I think are really, really powerful when we're talking about this idea of flipping. That if you're really looking for the value of what happens in is the idea of you're looking to develop this social soil that you can use together. That the value exchange cannot happen in a vacuum, right? And the soil is created and nurtured through listening, through storytelling, and this is where I will use it. You would put down recognizing human value beyond extractive output. In other words, the value of your lived experience, the value of the perspective that Sang brings, that Ali brings, that Marianne brings, that Jaloki brings. The curiosity shows up in this social soil. And in an individual machine-driven world, finding community with a shared drive allows us to kind of to grow things from this cultivated social soil. It's not looking upon the leader of the group to be able to say, I am Moses and I have had these tablets of wisdom and I'm going to come down and share them with you and you're going to resonate with what I bring to and what you respond to. The power is in the social soil. The other slide or the other image that I think is really strong is the one, if we move down a little bit to the power of getting lost together.
Okay, let me find that one.
And that is, I think, like 5 down, if you want to go take a look at that. It's the one with the rope there. It's number 12.
Oh, yes.
So when you're in situations that are human focused, you're experiencing the power of getting lost together, right? And this goes back to a concept that Ali was touching on a little bit when he was here. And when we're lost, can we make tea and think about where we are, reflect and find our new direction, find a new pace of rope that we can move in? You know, so many of our spaces are about, you know, we talked about the intention of curiosity, right? So what emerges is this idea that reflection and shared social soil are the antidotes to the friction of getting lost, right? So you get lost, but you have this wonderful soil of trust to sort of be in there. And that's that power, is that you're open to that exploration. Because the exploration isn't just coming up with predetermined things. It's, wait a second, I'm lost. There's no script in Rise and Shine Sundays. We're lost in this moment together, but where it gets brought back together is in the social soil. And then driving it home, Ray, for me, is the next slide down.
This one here, yes.
Which is that our collective wisdom operates as an interconnected nodal map, right? So we had this week of organic, nonlinear dialogue in a cohesive framework, right? And what we experienced together and what we're experiencing over multiple days is individual insights feed collective sense making. Now, I know a lot of this is really heady stuff, and I know we're going through it really quickly, which is very atypical of what we do. But the goal of gatherings is not to dictate a single truth, but to highlight the distinct lenses and the lived experiences, the perspectives of the participants, right? So all of those things happen. And what you realize is that, you know, well, I guess I'm twice on this. I have no idea that why I have 2 points on the node, but we can stop the share on this for now. But part of what I love about this type of work is that it is emergent and alive. And some of these graphics will be present. If you ever choose to come back to come to RSS Live, you can come 24 hours a day. And down here in the lower level beneath the pillows is a place where you can get all of the visual summaries from the week together. And here, let me just make sure I'm down here. So if you come to rsslive.org, you'll be able to sort of see that. I realize I'm jumping the screen around today, and I realize I may be creating some dissonance here. Please, I'm going to pause now. Any responses from anyone?
I want to know what. Talk more. Like, I want to hear more from Ray sometime. Like there's things that I love that you share, and you bring the what do I want to say? It's like you bring our educated mind into the space, right? Like what we've learned in school, right? Like I'm looking at the slides and I'm looking at the different things, and I enjoy the depth of them to be able to, and then hearing you discuss your perspective and how, you know, we're changing how we gather and bringing the conversations here in connection. There was something specific that you said, and it's like and I was like, oh, what did he say? And I wish I could go back and rewind, right? But I think learning how to be online and in spaces like this it can be challenging for people, because it is that sense of and I'm going to tap into some safety things here, right? Because as a mom who raised her kids, it was, what do my kids have access to? At this point, it's like having that awareness of what is expected in this gathering, where we're able to have that safety of what it is, right? Like, are these being recorded? Does someone else have access to record these? Are these being used for other information? And I think when people understand that a little bit better, then they are also able to have that safety that Claudia and Regina have been talking about, and Ray as well. So I love that.
Well, thank you, Sang. I think also what guides me in developing these materials is the responsibility of respect, of privacy and respect. Is that it's not there again? It's I'm looking for value, not for extracting something to gain advantage, and the beauty of people's thoughts, words, and insights is what I'm looking for, and it's an iterative process. Nothing is really finished. So I think this is the beauty of when I say the conversations need to continue. I think it's been reflected in everything that you've shared. Is the value keeps what Yoloki was sharing with us. 1 + 1 = 3. That's really the mental model that drives me, is that it's forever evolving and adding to this. And Yoloki's got his hand up, so let's go with that.
Something I really love and piques my curiosity more is an attribute of those visuals that you create, with the help of AI, Ray. In first grade, I was mesmerized by the blackboard, which later became a green board, but because
and now a whiteboard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The thing that struck me was, okay, someone says something, could be the teacher, but it could be someone in the room, and it's written on the blackboard. And when it's written on the blackboard, everyone looks at it, then it goes in everyone's mind. And all of us are looking at the blackboard, and it's like we're looking into others' mind. And then we can put something there. And so with the blackboard, we're working with the collective mind. It's for me, it was like magic. And now with this, Ray, you've brought us, this is on steroids. I love it. I love it.
Oh, I think you said something amazing. Is I was joking with Jamie and a few other folks. I was saying it starts where I have a conversation with myself. The AI is my assistant, not the other way around. And Jamie does this very well when he does it. He chastises the AI for not understanding it properly. Yep. And so the conversation, and then it expands to, it's a continuation. This is my experience, is when I'm working with these visuals, I'm actually having the conversation with you, which is that collective wisdom. I am hearing and seeing your collective wisdom, and I'm going, wow, I don't want to forget any of this. And that's kind of what I find is my curiosity and my desire to explore further, is to what Regine and Claudia said, is let's share this with others so they can say, hey, I can be part of this understanding of others, of the collective. And it's this, and what Yoloki just shared and shared at the start, is let's bring some of these old values back into this evolution of what what's starting to fall apart is the the recent 100 years of Western structure.
Yeah, and without introducing a big $3 term, you're talking about the transpersonal nature of curiosity.
Mhm.
So, in other words, I'm more curious in these conversations to see what's awake in Sang or in Claudia or Regine. You know, I bring my own curiosity, but that curiosity is transpersonal, right? So, how does this land for you? And you'll see that show up when the word choices that I use, because I'm genuinely interested in how these things, because again, those different perspectives add to the if you will, the multifaceted jewel. Well, you know what? I never fucking thought about that before. You know what I mean? So you knew I was going to swear one time in this session. I had to move from poo poo at one time, but back on that is, you know, that I think is a really important aspect of it, right, Ray? And those visuals for you are that way in which it gets synthesized so that you can see that. So it's out of a deep respect for what the other. It's not extractive. You know, I'm sure some of you have been in those gatherings sometimes. I think, Claudio, were you speaking to this, or was it somebody else that was talking about meetings in which somebody is drawing the entire time on the whiteboard to, you know, illustrate what people are talking about? That's that same sort of thing of what gets awakened sometimes when you're focused on this collective wisdom.
Yeah, I think it was when you were referring to the World Cafe technique with graphic facilitation, and that's the precursor to AI. We didn't have AI, but World Cafe was the process of people gathering to have conversations and then connecting in with other groups that are in the space.
Right. And while those World Cafes were going on, there was someone that was illustrating the thoughts on a whiteboard the whole time, or on paper or whatever. And those were then gathered and collected and shared with the whole group as the collective wisdom of the group.
Right.
And I think
Or
that was
in many cases as the collective vision of the group.
Yeah, and I think from what I can remember and experience, it was the first time that blew my mind is when I attended my first World Cafe, and I went, I can't believe this is happening. It's never happened. This exchange and the visualization of the exchange brought it into, as Euloki said, with the blackboard, whiteboard, green board, it brought it to the world. And immediately in my brain, it went, we just made the invisible visible.
I think, you know, when we gather in groups like this, sometimes when you're really not deeply involved in a group like this, what we talk about can feel very esoteric. And so when you can take what we talk about and put it into a visual, it takes it from that realm of, wow, that's really out there, to, oh, now I see what was going on. Now I understand, you know, what was being talked about. So, yeah. Thank you, Ray, for
Well,
doing
thank
that.
you all.
Yeah, let's all just say thank you, Ray. This is a great segue.
Thank you, Ray.
You know, and because I think it's really we're rounding up to the top of the hour, and I want to be respectful of people's time, and I also, you know, want to be able to. Oh, go ahead, Regine. Was there something you wanted to say?
Oh yeah, I was muted and I hadn't realized it. But I just want to say a few words about what Claudia really shared, because I think
Please.
she really nailed it. I think that what happens is that when we are talking, we are processing or we are exchanging and living from a moment to moment perspective. And what Ray does, and he had shared other conversations with me earlier, I find that what it does is it really allows you to see the conversation as a whole tapestry as opposed to certain moments that you really resonate with, you know? So it really brings the whole thing together in a way that is not intellectual, you know, or abstract. So I think that that's a wonderful tool. Yeah.
Great. So that is the perfect segue into what I wanted to be able to say, that if you want to connect with Ray in this type of work, because it's about scaling out, right? It's about finding your own path to do this. Rise and Shine Sundays will continue to exist as a broadcast beacon out there that sort of exemplifies this type of a conversation. But if you want to really be able to have an opportunity to meet, to discuss how this works, I'm going to scroll on down so that in our field of vision for our YouTube audience, our good friend Ray does something called Connecting Spheres that happens Tuesdays between 1:30 and 2:30 p.m. Central. You can go to the space every Tuesdays. It's a free gathering. It's an open discussion, no pre-registration necessary. And you can go to meetinthesphere.com. It is a weekly gathering for seekers, explorers, and experimenters co-creating new systems for shared connection and reciprocal growth. And so I'm putting out that out there to the ether, that's going to be an opportunity for people to connect. We'll still be connecting here on Sunday mornings on Rise and Shine Sundays on the Breakthrough Show Network. And if you come to our space, which is this thing called Rise and Shine Sundays into RSS Live, you'll be able to be back down here and look at some of the visual summaries. And they're not tied. This is not time specific. You know, the wisdom, that's the nice thing about collective wisdom. It is timeless, right? But our time on the Breakthrough Show Network is timed, and we want to really honor the opportunity to have had this discussion every week that the Breakthrough Show Network provides for us to be able to put that beacon out there. You're invited to join us because we'll be wrapping this up off air at rsslive.org. I want to thank everyone for their participation. There's so much that we didn't tap into to what we've been, but we're going to try to tap into some of that a little bit afterwards. So anyone have anything else they want to add for the end of the hour?
In our differences and diversity, we are one. And our evolution is a lot about becoming conscious of that.
And with that, we say amen for having gathered. So again, we'll all be back here next week with another topic and another discussion on Rise and Shine Sundays. Until then, continue to waking up to what's emerging.